We are live. Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, please like and subscribe. And I'm your host, Queen Tamara of Astral Healing Arts Wellness Center. And I'm so thankful and grateful to be with you all today on this Moon Day and Moon Day Monday. And we have a very special guest in the house, Brother Musa Shabazz. Has joined us again. And tonight we're going to go in jumps right into the topic. Is the Iran conflict the beginning of Armageddon? And if you have been aware of current events, family, you probably have heard about what is happening in Iran right now. It's been like a little over a week, I think. And the war has started there, and this conflict is growing in its capacity and whatnot. And this crisis began with escalating conflict between the United States and the Israeli military. And so tonight we're going to talk about, because many people have predicted that this would come to this point after those missile attacks last June. However, we're going to see if this situation is really a sign of something much bigger. And bigger, when I say bigger, like in a biblical proportion. So tonight we have our very special guest, Brother Musa Shabazz, and he's going to take us deeper into this topic. So Brother Musa, again, Assalamu alaikum, Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you for joining us.
Alaikum salam. Ramadan Kareem.
Thank you. Thank you. So can you share a little bit about yourself to the listening audience?
Well, I've been in Islam since I was young. I wasn't born into it, but since pretty young, since about 15 years old, I was introduced to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And since then, I just, dove off into all sorts of knowledge, fields of knowledge, schools of thought, spiritual systems, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a lot of what I have to deal with as far as like information that I'm into, and the information that I share with other people. And politics is definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And with everything that's going on right now, I'm just happy to share information with anybody that's looking for information or open to certain information. And yeah.
Okay. You want to talk about your music a little bit?
Music? Oh yeah. I definitely do music, and I haven't put much out officially, but if anybody's interested, I got Instagram, Musa.wisdom. People can find my music on there, and then contact me directly if they want to know where they can find more of it at and stuff like that. And then I do a bunch of different stuff. I have a basketball training program for the youth out here in Atlanta. So I operate that. So yeah, I'm definitely off into a lot of different things for sure.
Praise be to Allah for that. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's talk a little bit about tonight's topic. What is the central conflict that started this? Because a lot of people, from the conversations that I'm hearing when people talking, they seem a little bit surprised that the chain of events that has happened in the last couple of it's actually been like maybe 2 weeks in since they had launched the attack, but it's been like simmering for a while. So what is the central conflict?
The central conflict is pretty much Israel at the heart of it, wanting to be the hegemonic leader in that region. What hegemonic, for those that don't know what that means, hegemony is basically a nation that stands head and shoulders above the rest of the nations. So the United States of America would be the hegemonic leader in the world up until this point, and Israel wants to be that in that region. And in order for them to be that in that region, Iran needs to be out the way, because Iran is the biggest resistance to Israel in that region. Uh,
Okay.
and there's something people can look up. It's called the Greater Israel Project, which is numerous Israeli politicians have openly spoke about how their agenda is they want to expand Israel. They want to expand the territory. So
Mm-hmm.
that would include taking territory in some of the surrounding countries like Lebanon, I believe, Jordan, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Saudi, Egypt. So Iran is basically I would say, the most um, economically and militarily advanced Muslim country that can stand up to Israel.
Okay.
And so, if you go back to the early 2000s, you'll hear of Israeli and American politicians talking about how they plan on going to war with all of the Muslim countries in the Middle East. So they've been planning this for a while. I mean, obviously they started off with Iraq, Afghanistan. So this is
Mm-hmm.
a culmination of that, but it's like a culmination point. It's like a climax of the story because Iran is the furthest east, and as I said, it's the most militarily advanced. Um,
Okay. For that region.
yeah, so it's like an escalation point that they're at now, and the most important part is that you're not just dealing with Iran. Iran is backed by China and Russia. So
Mm.
that is the key part that makes this a very volatile situation that can spill over into what people would call World War III. And Russia and China is already providing intelligence to Iran, which is why Iran has been able to very easily destroy United States military bases in about 7 countries in that region. So Iran is not operating on their own. They're getting Russian and they're getting Chinese intelligence, and there's 2,000 Chinese troops on the ground in Iran. So that's what makes this, you know, that's the starting point of the conflict, and some of the other things I mentioned is why it's such a
Mm-hmm.
volatile.
Mm. Well, thank you for that brief history on the origins of the conflict, because I know that it's been talked about a lot in the news. I just wasn't aware of how significant a role it plays. Um, and you already mentioned who the key players involved are, that China and Russia are standing behind and supporting Iran. You mentioned.
Yes, China and Russia. Yes,
Hmm. And who's backing? I guess the Israeli military will be the U.S.
yes, and then soon the European nations
Oh, they will. Okay. All right.
and Great
Okay.
Britain.
Mm-hmm. You we in the title we mentioned about the War of Armageddon. What is the War of Armageddon all about?
Well, basically, in the three major religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, you have this prophecy that at the end of the world, that there will be a great war
Mm-hmm.
between good and evil, and that's where the Messiah is going to come. That's when God is going to come and destroy the evil on the planet, and um, so that's something that the three major religions all believe in, and also something that the last divine messenger, the Most High Elijah Muhammad, very heavily taught on, because he was sent to us in the actual time where this war is supposed to take place. So he gave us even more details on it because he came to us in the time in this time. And then after the messenger left, we were left with Minister Farrakhan, who has continued that and continued to give us uh, teachings and details on what to look for and what is to come, and everything that those two the messenger and the minister, all the things that those two said have come to fruition about that America will go to war with the Muslim world, and,
Mm.
and that um, they will go to war with Russia and the East, and that it
Mm.
was a great, basically a great world war, and that this is tied in with the coming of God and God divine destruction of America that will take place. So anybody that knows the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad knows that he taught that America will fall. He wrote a book called The Fall of America, which
Mm.
everybody should read it, especially right now. Uh,
Mm.
and he taught there will be a destruction of America, a divine destruction, and that God is not just a spirit and the angels are not just spirits, that God and his angels are actual men that pilot these crafts that they call UFOs,
Mm.
and that there's what you could call a giant UFO called the mother plane, which houses all of the what we call baby planes. And now we're at a point now where we have unlimited amount of documented evidence of this,
Mm.
from NASA, from different countries, from firsthand accounts of people that have encountered the beings from these craft that say that they're black people. And when the United States government went to the moon, Neil Armstrong talked about how when he was there, not only did he see black people there, but he also heard the Adhan there.
On
And
the moon.
yes,
Okay.
and for those that don't know what the Adhan is, that is the Islamic call to prayer. And so the way he found this out is because when he first heard it when he was there, he had never heard it before, so he didn't know anything about Islam.
Mm.
But when he came back sometime after, he went on a tour just talking about, his moon trip and blah, 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 blah. And he was in the Middle East. I think he was in Egypt, I want to say, or some Muslim.
Okay.
And he heard the Adhan. And he said, that's what I heard on the moon.
Mm.
So the key secret about these UFO is not only are they black human beings, but they are Muslim human beings. And connection between this divine destruction of America that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us about and this war amongst all the great nations. Because if I can find this picture on my phone, the messenger when he would teach when he first came, well, first of all, Master Farah Muhammad, who is the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teacher, let's just
Mm.
for starters, when he would teach, he would have a picture on the blackboard, and this is the picture that he would have. Let me see if I can find it right here. This picture right here, if people can see, you have who will
Which
survive.
one will survive the war of Armageddon? So it has the U.S. flag on one side and the flag of Islam on the other. Okay.
Correct, correct. And so that's why there's a connection between America going to war with the Muslim world
Mm-hmm.
and, and these black Muslim gods that are to destroy America.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked last time on your show about how, because when you see Christianity on that picture, you see the flag of America, but it's not just America. It's what that flag represents in that picture, not just America, but the white man's world, the Western world.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have the Western world against the Muslim world, and the Muslim world is being backed by China and Russia as well. That those are their allies, right?
Okay.
So this is what the war of Armageddon has to do with, there's a lot of things that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, see, so important is how to recognize a divine messenger. Because when you recognize a divine messenger when he's in your midst, you know what to look for. And
Mm-hmm.
he told us what was to come. So I'll give you an example.
Okay.
For one, like as I said, he spoke of who pilot these crafts, and then now this all this evidence came out to support it. Another
Mm-hmm.
thing that he talked about is how there's civilization on Mars. And
Mm-hmm.
over the years, I'm sure you've heard, I'm sure you've seen this, that certain individuals that work for NASA came out and showed photos and spoke on how there's evidence of civilization on Mars, and there's pyramids there and all type of stuff.
Yes, I heard of that. Yes.
So, so also, like Donald Elijah Muhammad just telling us that, Black people are aboriginal to the entire planet Earth, and they were everywhere on these are things that were not known in 1930, 1931, 1930.
Mm-hmm.
This is a man with only a fourth grade education, and talking about how the US dollar is going to fall, and now we see the dollar fall. So when you see a man like this, and he's giving you information that there's no way he could have known with a fourth grade education, and it keeps on coming true, now you have to take seriously what he's saying is going to transpire. And now that we're here in this world war that he's saying was going to come about, and it has come about, now you have to look at what else he said is going to transpire,
Mm.
at the end of it, which is the destruction of the Western world, America, in order to usher in a world of peace and what is called the hereafter, or heaven on earth.
Mm-hmm.
That is the ultimate end game that he taught us we're going into, or certain ones will go into. So that is what I would say that what the War of Armageddon is all about.
Okay. And you mentioned um, China and the Chinese government and the Russian government supporting Iran. Why? What is? Do you know why they? So far, that's all I've heard. Too, those two countries have come forward. I think I might have heard something on the radio today about um, another country getting involved, but why those two countries? Because I know they are considered like superpowers. I think very advanced as far as their military prowess. But what is their involvement in this?
China gets a lot of their oil from Iran.
Okay.
They're also all in the same region,
Mm-hmm.
and they all view America as a problem on the planet.
Mm.
America is a problem on the planet. America and the rest of the Western world, the European nations, also known as NATO, they are who go around the planet and cause destruction. They take over people's lands, and they remove any leader in any country that will stand up to America and the West, and not allow them to come in and rape all of their resources. And so now that doesn't mean that China and Russia is just like holier than thou groups either,
Mm.
but they look at America like America is the problem on the planet in the past, since, I guess you could say, since the World War II, when US
Mm.
really their full power and started really like flexing their power around the world.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing to look at is, see, when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was amongst us, what he said was that some of these other nations were willing to help him and help us
Mm.
in the East.
Okay.
And what he did was he formed relationships with a lot of these other countries around the world. One big example is with Muammar Gaddafi from Libya.
Mm.
And this continued on after the messenger with Minister Farrakhan, who was also really tight with Gaddafi. And to the point where Gaddafi offered to give him $1 billion for us to build us up here in America, the black men and women in America. And the United States government blocked that.
Mm.
And then, of course, they assassinated Gaddafi because he was working on a United States of Africa and having the African continent back their currency by gold and, remove themselves from the Western financial system and et cetera, et cetera. So that's one example. Another, and what the messenger also said was that China was ready to give him whatever he needed for us to establish ourselves as a nation somewhere else and have everything that we need in order to do that. The messenger said that it would take, and this is, at that time, in the 60s or 70s, he said that it would take about $100 million for us to have everything we need to set up the necessary infrastructure and he was like, yo, like they're ready to give it to me. They said they're ready to give it. Will are you, like, he's basically telling our people, like, unite with me and
to create something of your own,
set up something of our own, and they will back us, and that we have allies, we have friends in these other parts of the world. And our people, of course, rejected him, the most of our people. And that's why I said it's how important it is to recognize a divine messenger when he's in your midst. Because our people rejected him, and my position that ever since then that our people have been living in chastisement, divine chastisement, as a result of that. Because we chose not to separate, we chose to integrate into a system, into a country that does not care anything about us and is only. So some of these other countries, even, again, I'm not saying that these countries are just, holy or anything like that, but you have, for example, Vladimir Putin talked about the Black Madonna and just like little stuff like that. Like,
what did he say about the Black Madonna? I'm not aware of that.
I think he was like showing a picture of it and saying like what the original Virgin Mary looked like or something. Don't quote me, but it was something along those lines. But where I'm going with that is these other people around the world, especially at the top, they know who we are. But the Black women in America, they know who we are and that we are to rule the next world. And so it's wise for them to position themselves to be our allies. And that's what you're seeing now. This a leader that they just assassinated, Khomeini in Iran, back in the early 80s, I believe it was. Iran had captured some United States soldiers, and he let go the black ones. The black ones, it was, I believe, 6 black soldiers and 4 women that he let go. In the 90s, during the Desert Storm War with Saddam Hussein's regime, a similar thing happened where they captured U.S. soldiers. The United States was trying to negotiate with them, and they said, we're not interested in even talking to you guys. We're only going to talk to Minister Farrakhan.
This was Iraqi soldiers that said that.
This was the Saddam Hussein regime.
Oh, okay.
And so the United States government went and got the minister, whatever. And the minister went over there with Jesse Jackson, I believe, negotiated, and they let the black soldiers go. So what happened was after the messenger formed these relationships
Mm-hmm.
in Asia and the Middle East and Africa for us, since then the minister has continued nurturing those relationships.
Mm.
And there are arrangements in place for after America falls that we will be in some of these other lands. So that is what I would say to why Russia and China is positioned in the way that they are with
Mm-hmm.
the Muslim world. Because what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said was that the Muslims will rule the next world, that it will be a Islamic world. The same way right now we live in a Christian world. In the next world, it will be an Islamic world. It'll be a different Islam than what you see mostly in the world. It'll be a new Islam, that it'll be a renewed version, if you will, but
Mm.
it will nonetheless be Islam.
Okay. All right. That was a lot to think on and reflect. You mentioned the War of Armageddon, and by this being something that has been foretold, but what has been prophesied about this conflict and Armageddon? For those who have heard about it but may not be aware how this corresponds to the Battle of Armageddon.
Yes. Is that a question?
Yes.
What's your question?
Let me read it one more time. Hold on. What has been prophesied and about this conflict in Armageddon? Because I think you may have touched on this a little bit. But how does this situation, this conflict, align with this Battle of Armageddon?
Yeah, it's basically what I was outlining of how, let's just use the term World War III, right? Because that's
Okay.
what people are calling it, or saying this might be. First of all, when people are saying, is this going to be World War III or
Right.
da, 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 I mean, I don't know why people are not saying it already is, because as I said, China already has Iran.
Mm-hmm.
China and Russia is supplying intelligence to Iran. The United States is backing Israel, and United States troops is over there fighting.
Yes.
Still got the Russia-Ukraine war going on, and
Oh,
America.
yes, that's still happening.
That's still, they stopped talking about it. It's still going. So America's backing Ukraine. So that is basically America at war with Russia.
I forgot about that. Yes, you're right. You're right.
So
And then there's all these smaller conflicts in the so-called Middle East as well.
exactly. So how is that not already? Well,
World War III. I see what you're saying.
the only
Yes.
thing is that it can escalate more, and it will escalate more. So depending on what degree of escalation determines what people might call World War III, but we're already in it. So
Mm-hmm.
but anyway, let's take that term World War III. What's prophesied is that World War III is directly tied to the War of Armageddon, which will be the coming of God destroying the evil on the planet, which
Yes.
is the Western world and America. As far as not saying that there is no evil outside of that, but when we're talking about the evil entity that causes the most destruction and deviance on the planet, that's what it is. So World War III is directly tied to this war of Armageddon, of God coming and destroying that evil power, and that after that, will be what is called the hereafter. Now, in most religious teachings, they believe that after the destruction of this world, that this physical world is going to be destroyed, like the physical earth is going to be destroyed, and then we're going to go into another realm.
Mm-hmm.
But what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us is that no, the hereafter, the hereafter is simply heaven on earth, meaning after the destruction of the Western world, the white man's world, there will be a world of peace and heaven established on this actual physical earth.
So when the scriptures talk about and heaven came down or heaven on earth, this is what it's referring to.
Thy will be done on earth as it is in
It's
heaven.
in heaven. Okay, I see. I see.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see why this would fit the description of World War III, because you got some major superpowers involved. You know, Russia, China, Iran, the U.S., you know, Israel. Those are some of the biggest, some of the governments that have the greatest influence, the largest military force, the biggest presence in the world. Those are some of the those leading nations are having this war right now. So I could see that being definitely being World War being World War III.
Those are the biggest nations and superpowers on the planet: the United States, China, and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Iran is arguably the biggest Muslim nation, if not the biggest. I mean, I don't know who else someone would say. Maybe I guess Arabia, but um, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um, now by this being, you did mention this a little bit earlier, um, the role that the position that Black Americans are when it comes to this conflict, but this conflict, which you know, involving, like we said, some of the biggest nations in the world, most powerful nations in the world. What does this mean for Black people in America? Is this a sign of something that we should be more aware of?
Well, the messenger was trying to get us to see, as I said before, the need for us to separate and have a nation of our own. And one of the reasons for there's several reasons for that.
Mm-hmm.
One of those reasons is because there's going to be a destruction of America, and so that we would not be line of fire when God would come and destroy that we would not be part of that. So, but because, as he taught us, we are easily led in the wrong direction and hard to lead in the right, and that we're rebellious and we're rebellious, and there's also thing that happened to our people, which is because of Christianity. Once we started waking up to the damage that Christianity did to us, we started having a distaste for religion altogether.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that has played a role in why we have rejected Islam and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Mm-hmm.
But so because we have not separated, we're in the line of fire now. So Don Elijah Muhammad said that when the destruction of America will happen, that there'll be what we call the scientists or the angels that pilot these so-called UFOs. He said right before the destruction of America that leaflets would be dropped, basically telling us that we have a certain amount of time to get out of America or, run to wherever we can. and that these scientists would be in the streets directing people where to go.
Mm.
And you would be asked, are you with America or are you with the Muslims?
Mm.
And this is a very key part of prophecy and understanding why what the war that's going on right now,
Mm-hmm.
understanding why this is the trigger of Armageddon. Because
Okay.
because if Elijah is telling us that you will be asked, are you with America or are you with the Muslims? That must mean that the context of that question is that there is a huge conflict going on between America and the Muslim world.
Mm.
Iran being the largest Muslim nation and that being tied in with the other Muslim parts of the world that America has been bombing for the last 20 years, um, is a sign of what he's talking about. Like when he's saying, "Are you with America or are you with the Muslims?" Now, after that, he said that those that will be saved would be well. Okay, first, though, when you're asked, "Are you with America or are you with the Muslims?" Those that say they're with America will be directed into the areas where the bombs from the baby planes will be dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Those that say they are with the Muslims will be directed to where there will be the safe zones.
The safe zone. Okay.
And, and those people will be transported to different areas on the planet, which is what I'm referring to when saying relationships have been made with other nations in the East for when this takes place.
Mm.
So he mentioned some of these areas. Um uh well, depending on what lesson, there's certain lessons that are out there publicly, and then there's other lessons. But
It's more esoteric.
there let's just say on the African continent, there will be certain people taken on the African continent, and
Mm-hmm.
then also in Asia. He mentioned the Pacific Islands, he mentioned New Zealand. So that is where Black people rest in this conflict. It's being in America as the chosen people of God, and depending on whether they will submit or not to God and His messenger, will determine whether they will escape the destruction or not.
Mm. Okay.
And then in the next world, those who do escape the destruction will be the cornerstone of the building of the next world.
Yes. Um, do you think that this war will come to U.S. soil or U.S. territory? Because right now, there hasn't been a war fought on this land in few centuries. So, do you think this one will come and hit closer to home?
Well, it's funny because I just posted something today about how the number one concern of American citizens right now to be what are called sleeper cells.
And what is that?
Sleeper cells are certain countries that are enemies to America, like Iran,
Mm-hmm.
have people and groups that they have trained that live over here in America already.
Mm-hmm.
The West would call these groups terrorist groups, right?
Okay.
So this is pretty much what some would say happened in 9/11. Like because America is so open with immigration,
Mm-hmm.
easy for anybody to come in, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with some of these countries and Iran has already threatened that if America attacks them, that they will activate their sleeper cells. So
Okay.
you may see what they would call terrorist acts in America. That's number one. Now the whole thing is this may have already happened because
Mm-hmm.
if you are familiar with the mass shooting in Austin, Texas, that happened either the next day or a couple days after America struck Iran. Are you familiar with that shooting?
No, I'm not.
So either the next day or within the next few days after America initially attacked Iran,
Okay.
there was a mass shooting in Austin, Texas, and the shooter was an African man wearing a sweater that said "Property of Allah," and they say that on his shirt, it was the Iranian flag.
Okay. You know, there's been so many, not that I'm not that informed, it's been so many mass shootings I cannot
I
keep
know,
up,
yeah, of course.
which is unfortunate. But no, I'm not aware of this one at all. Okay. So that happened a few days after the US launched a missile attack.
Now, here's the thing. Some would say that, okay, maybe that was because the America and Israel, sometimes they do certain things, like they will orchestrate an attack on themselves in order to justify them attacking
another group.
That's what many would say happened with 9/11. That's what supposedly some of what is happening in the Gulf states right now that were bombed. They're like Jordan and Saudi Arabia. They're learning that it was actually Israel that did some of those bombings, not Iran. So,
okay.
So I say that to say that is something that happened, but it's in my personal assessment of things, I don't think that that's what this was, because if that's what this was, then I believe they would have used that and pushed that for the narrative of justifying more attacking Iran. But they didn't do that. Like after that shooting happened, it kind of like died down.
So the mass shooting that happened in Austin, Texas in the last couple of, it must have happened about 2 weeks ago or so. Were a lot of people injured? Yeah, and the person with the sweatshirt on, you mentioned, was that person taken into police custody, or?
I think he was killed. I think they killed him.
Okay.
But I believe 5 people were killed.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, after that happened, that news died down. They didn't use that and to push a narrative to justify going into Iran and doing even more damage, right? So that leads me to think that this was this very likely was a retaliation from Iran, and that America wanted to suppress that so that it wouldn't look like America was weak. So I say all that to say is that this war very possibly already reached the U.S. soil.
That's a good observation. Okay.
Now, and also to say that this very likely could happen in the near future, especially if the more damage they do in Iran, like if Iran starts getting desperate, then there's more of a likelihood that that's going to happen. Now, there's other things. Have you ever seen the movie Leaving the World Behind?
I did.
Do you remember it?
I'm glad you asked. I do. That's one movie I saw that came out maybe about 2 years ago, so I did see it. Okay. I think on Netflix.
So what do you remember from the movie?
Well, I saw the movie. I did not. We should do some decoding episodes because I've done one so far. I didn't care too much for it because it like popcorned all these topics. Like it kept throwing all these subplots out there, but never developing them. And so I do remember the part where, you know, the grid apparently went down and there was a lot of planes crashing and communication was not functioning, and people, and no one knew why, which caused a lot of fear and anxiety. and
Right.
people weren't able to communicate with loved ones and things. And then I remember the pamphlets being distributed in different languages. Some were in, I think they said Chinese, some were in I'm trying to remember if they said Arabic or Farsi, but they were different languages. And there was other little details, but it was, and then at the end it kind of left you hanging with the um you could see the city. I think it was may have been the city of New York off in the distance, and you could hear the gunshots and the chaos, and just there's a lot of just uncertainty, a lot of they threw a lot of theories out there in the movie, but they didn't prove anything or give you any follow-up.
Basically, what you had was America being attacked, but they didn't know where it was coming from.
Okay. So when the grid shut down, it was an attack, a cyber attack.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Now,
they suggested that, but they never proved it.
right, because there was no identification of who the enemy was, like who was causing these things. Right. They're trying to figure it out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that happened in that was, you remember the airplanes falling out the sky?
I do.
Okay. Weren't there all of a sudden in the past couple years a ridiculous amount of airplanes crashing in real life?
I cannot say for certain because I haven't kept up with those statistics. However, I am aware in the last several years I've heard more stories on the news as well as social media of flight disturbances, flights having to be landed in an emergency. Sometimes something happens mid-air and then they have to land and then get on another plane. There's been a lot of disturbances.
Yeah, you must have been ducked off in a cave somewhere meditating doing your zikrs, because
yes.
It's been a lot of planes.
A lot of plane crashes. I have not. I know there's been a lot of problems with planes, but no, I haven't heard the crashes.
Crashing into each other, falling, all type of stuff.
Well, there was a helicopter or something crashed right outside of DC where I am. Remember a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
I think that's when Trump was president the first time. Wasn't there like some major? Matter of fact, now that you refresh my memory, wasn't there a week where there was a whole bunch of crashes? It was the helicopter crash, and there was something else that same week.
That's what I'm talking about. But it wasn't just 1 week though. But there were certain instances where there would be a week where it would be multiple crashes, but it didn't just happen 1 week. Like I'm telling you, but it's weird because it stopped happening. Maybe I'll say about less than a year ago, maybe 9 months ago.
Maybe we stopped hearing about it, but it's still happening.
Maybe so, maybe not. I don't know. But for a cool year and a half, it was a lot. Now, I say all that to say that, when 9/11 happened, what the rest of the world learned was, okay, if you attack America, you can't do it overtly. You have to do it covertly, because if you do it overtly, the blowback is too big, right? Because after 9/11, America went and bombed the Middle East for 20 years straight, right? So the rest of the world, what happens is now sometimes when the U.S. does stuff to other countries, they'll retaliate, but they'll do it on the low. They'll do it discreetly, might give a wink to the U.S. like, yo, stop playing with us, like type of thing. So I'm just bringing that up to say, who's to know that all those plane crashes wasn't some type of cyber attack from some other country, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, whether it's Iran. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, even deeper than just this physical conflict going on in Iran right now. And then a lot of how America is supposed to fall, according to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is economic implosion. And anyone that's following the war right now knows the world economy and the Western economy is going to be completely destroyed by this conflict because Iran went and destroyed a lot of the oil fields that are tied to America in the Gulf countries, Gulf Coast countries, which are Qatar, Bahrain,
UAE.
That.
So okay, so stop right there. So you said Iran destroyed the oil fields that have been heavy suppliers to the U.S.
So this, I have to break something down. So the U.S. doesn't necessarily get the majority of their oil from there. The U.S. is able to get the majority of their oil right here from Canada, South America, and in America, right? Which actually ties into the whole Venezuela.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up next. I was going to.
Yeah, people are wondering why did Trump just all of a sudden, like recently, go into Venezuela? It's because they're scrambling because the rest of the world is pulling away from the dollar. The dollar is weakening. You have what's called BRICS. BRICS is a coalition of countries, including China, Russia, India, I believe, is in it, Iran, and a number of other countries that have decided that they're not going to use the United States dollar as the reserve currency.
Okay.
Meaning, up until this point, when you do world trade and you try to buy oil, you have to buy it in US dollars. Now, all these, and what that does is that makes the dollar the most powerful currency on the planet.
Correct.
Now that those other countries and BRICS have done that and started pulling away from that, that weakens the dollar, right? So now the United States. This is how you can see they're beginning to be in panic mode because they had to go up in there to Venezuela to get that oil, and then since the Iran war started, people don't know this and they're not talking about this. They went in. America just went in and invaded Ecuador.
No, I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
To get that oil, because you have something that's called the petrodollar, meaning, you know, a lot of times you'll hear people say the United States dollar isn't backed by anything. Like it's, you know,
they say it's not backed by any kind of
it's not backed by gold.
Yeah, gold or some natural resources. I have heard that. Yes,
that's true. They removed the gold standard, you know, a long time ago, but the U.S. dollar is backed by something, and that is the oil. It's not directly backed, but it basically is, meaning that oil in those countries, those Gulf Coast countries, what happens is those countries sell that oil and they take the profits from that. Well, number one, they have to sell it and trade it in US dollars. And as I said, that strengthens the dollar. But then number two, they take a large amount of those profits and invested in the U.S. stock market. The U.S. stock market is the economic engine of America. If the U.S. stock market crashed, the American economy crashed. So the U.S. stock market is heavily reliant on those resources in those countries. Iran just bombed all those oil fields.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So Iran understands that militarily, they're not quite on the level of America, even though they can give some blows. They destroyed all of the United States military bases in those regions as well. So they can give some real blows, but they understand they're not all the way on the same level as America. So what they're going to do is heavily attack America economically. And this ties into what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad prophesied about the United States dollar falling first and then country will fall behind it.
Wow. Yes. And we do see that happening now with these high inflation rates and other things.
Yeah, it's
Um,
already happening because when gas goes up, now
mhm.
it for the shit things
Yep,
that that makes food cost more. That means it costs more to manufacture things because factories, run on this stuff. So it affects everything.
it does. Yeah. So it's not all doom and gloom, folks. That's listed. We're gonna have we got some some advice for you. So how does you mentioned about the Mahdi Master Farad Muhammad, and do you want to talk a little bit more about how Master Farad Muhammad and the Mother Plane relate to this conflict?
Well, you said that somebody said in the comments is doom and gloom. It's funny.
No, I said it's not all doom and gloom, folks, because I know people when this is a heavy topic, and so we've been talking about well, we're talking about the current events and how it's all leading up to this, and then later we're gonna have our Musa moment. We're gonna talk about how we can mitigate and how we can get through this, but how because we see the effects all around us. I mean, the signs are there.
Yeah,
The economy is been a great struggle. I witnessed it firsthand last year when we had that government shutdown. There were many people that I knew that were out of work who had what they considered to be stable, um, great jobs. And, it was surprising to me the number of people who live paycheck to paycheck because when they didn't get those checks coming in steadily, it put them behind and things. They got into debt. It was a big struggle for a lot of folks. There were lots of churches and charitable organizations that were giving away food to people, and the lines were stretched for blocks. They would run out of stuff. It was really looked like dire straits last year, and that was just for a few months. And then a lot, like I said, a lot of those people had what were considered good federal jobs and things like that. And then even people who don't work for the federal government were still impacted because the funding, although they may not directly work for the government, but the funding comes from them.
right.
And so it had a serious impact on a lot of people, and they're still recovering from it. Just because they went back to work doesn't mean that the problems were all solved.
Right.
And we've, as America, living here in the US, we have seen the steady increase in inflation and energy costs and everything that around us. And now this is happening.
So you're asking how does Master Muhammad in the Mahdi? I'm glad you said the term Mahdi. I'm glad you said that because
Yes.
touch on that and how that speak more on how that ties into this.
Yes.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that as I said earlier, that angels are not spirits, they're actual human beings. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say super evolved human beings, super enlightened. Because how we talk amongst ourselves sometimes about the potential of the human being, and that we're really gods, but our God power is just dormant.
Yes.
Imagine a group of men where that power is actually awakened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when you hear sometimes about prophets and certain mystics in the Himalayas and stuff that could do
Mm-hmm.
Senegal, that can do superhuman stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that's real. And so imagine a group of men that are like that, but to the 1,000th degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
We hear about we only use 10% of our brain. Some
Mm-hmm.
whether that's true or not, but for the sake of argument, let's say that that's true, that we only use 10% of our brain. Well, imagine if we used 30% or 50% or 100%, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Don Elijah Muhammad taught us that there's 24 of these men, and that the head of the those 24 is God in person, right? So the spirit of God that is in all of us is fully manifested in that vehicle, right?
Okay.
So because that spirit is in all of our vehicles, but is dormant in most of us to some degree, some to a larger degree in some than others, right? Now, what's interesting is people should do their homework on Dr. Wesley Muhammad. He wrote a book called Book of God that I recommend to everybody. And what he details in that book is that this concept of 24 beings that rule the planet is not only in Don Elijah Muhammad's teachings. This is actually a concept that existed in different spiritual traditions around the world, in the ancient world. Whether it's ancient Egypt, also known as Kemet, in the Sumerian tablets, the Assyrians, and a number of other traditions, which again shows how would Don Elijah Muhammad, a man with a 4th grade education, know that, right? So we were taught that the man that came to teach him, Master Farad Muhammad, is the head of those 24.
Okay.
Which makes him God in person. The spirit of God is fully manifested through his vehicle. And again, so some people will say, well, how could God be a man? Right? How could God be a human being? Again, it's hard for the average person to fathom that, but for certain people that are into certain spiritual paths, it's not that far-fetched, because you might know about certain superhuman things that can be done by certain people, like Sheikh Amadou Bamba, or certain yogi mystics in India, like that. You hear of certain beings levitating, reading minds, so or teleporting and all this type of stuff that might sound crazy to the average person. So when a person hears that, how could a human being be God? How could one person hear everyone's prayers and answer all of their prayers? Well, if you know some of these stories of some of these mystics that have been in more than one place at the same time, then it's actually not that far-fetched, especially if then you think in your brain, well, if they can do that, well, what can the most enlightened out of them do?
That was deep. Okay.
So now the other key piece is the mother plane, because Master Farad Muhammad came and taught Don Elijah Muhammad of this mother plane and actually pointed it out to him in the sky. Don Elijah Muhammad is teaching about this plane and these UFOs in the 1930s, when the UFO phenomena community was not even a thing yet in the 1930s.
Right.
So he's teaching this before anybody else. Mid-1940s is when people start seeing them a lot. It starts being a thing. The mother plane ends up being the exact same measurements that Don Elijah Muhammad said it was, a half a mile by half a mile. And we have now a long list of military documents and different primary firsthand accounts of the mother wheel and its size and what it looks like and everything like that, and it matches. And in 1942, there's something called the Battle of Los Angeles, where the mother plane showed itself in Los Angeles, and the United States military fired, I believe it was either 1,500 or 1,800 rounds of ammunition at it. They tried to.
In 1942. Okay, wasn't aware of that.
And it didn't do anything to the mother plane. They weren't able to. I mean, they shot all those rounds of ammunition and nothing happened. It just stood there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, what separates the Honorable Elijah Muhammad from many other religions, if not all of them, is that he actually has a physical weapon that is directly tied to him that is superior in military technology to anything else in America or in the white man's world or on the earth, period.
Okay.
Which means that is a god. Like, that is something superior to anything that we know. It's militarily superior to the United States military and can destroy the United States military in the blink of an eye.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that's the connection. That's the connection, is that the Mahdi is something in the Islamic world that is prophesized, that in the end of the world there will be a figure that will show up at the time of the destruction, or what we would call the Judgment Day. And this Mahdi, what's very interesting about the Iran war is that Iran they are Shia Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
Shia Muslims. Shia Muslims are obsessed with the coming of the Mahdi.
Okay.
Specifically Shia Muslims. And they have all these prophecies of what he would look like and how he would come. And one of the things they said is that he would be in some type of technologically advanced aircraft.
Oh, did they? Okay.
And
I did not know that this is what they teach. Okay.
Absolutely. And they also talk about how he would look like his hair, that he would have like a shiny black hair and
Mm-hmm.
skin. So that's my answer to how the Mahdi and Master Fard Muhammad ties into this war of Armageddon.
Okay. Very interesting. All right. Let's see. There are no questions in the comment section. However, I do have the question: how can we prepare for what is to come? I know that with any talk about war or political conflict, that evokes a lot of fear and anxiety in people. And family that's listening, above everything, have no fear. Fear is the enemy, and keep in mind that there's oftentimes some type of conflict or going on. And this one, the only thing that's different about this one is, I guess, the severity of it. So with that said, we need to keep in mind what is what's our strategy? Like, how do we protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe and sane at this time?
Well, I would say for number one, as things escalate, people should definitely, there's no telling how quickly things could escalate as far as things crumbling in America.
Mm-hmm.
It could be It could be in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Sometimes conflicts take a certain amount of time. So even scripturally, when it talks about the War of Armageddon, it might not necessarily be in a couple of days. So it could be in the next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but it could also be in the next weeks or months. There's no telling. The Minister Farrakhan in 2024 said that the War of Armageddon had begun. This was around the time of, well, this was at the time of when the Ukraine war started. He said that the War of Armageddon had begun. So now we're at a juncture now where it's, escalating. And so I would say, because we don't know what the timeline, people should be stocked up on food and water and all those kinds of things, and prepared for anything, to transpire. Now, what I'll also say is, I spoke earlier about when the destruction is to happen, that people will be directed in different areas. So you have that component, but there's certain individuals, and you and I had this discussion. There's certain individuals that, hey, you might want to jump the gun and get out of here early. Right? So that's an option. So you have a couple options. That, get out of here early, or you can stick it out, and there's no telling, how things are going to decline prior to the final destruction. So that's a gray area. But so the other option is, as that happens, when you get to the actual destruction, that's when people will be directed in the safe zones or the non-safe zones based on who they submit to. And this is where I'll just say this. I would say this is the most important time than ever to study Elijah and know who is God. Who is God, and is there a way to actually know based on verifiable evidence who God is? And that's why I brought up the mother plane, because there is verifiable evidence that we have a technologically advanced weapon, more advanced than anything that the United States military has. So I would urge people to ask themselves that, who is God? And is there a way to is there a verifiable way to know who God is and who his messenger is? Because if God is real, then it would make sense that he would send a messenger so that people will not be able to have the excuse that they were not warned.
Indeed. And also to know that there's always a divine teacher amongst us at any given time, I believe. I don't think that, I think humanity has always had teachers, way showers, whatever you want to call them, great sages, mystics, or whatever, that help serve as like a reminder to people and to awaken the masses. And we're no different than any other group or at any other time period, that we also have one, and we got to be mindful and listen, open our eyes, open our ears, and listen to what the warnings and the messages that are coming to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And not just Elijah, I would urge people, Minister Farrakhan, because Minister Farrakhan, he has the teachings of Elijah packaged in, the more modern context. And also he spoke in a way that is, more digestible and palatable. He's a great orator and stuff like that. For a lot of people, it's harder to listen to Don Elijah Muhammad because he wasn't the greatest speaker and all that type of stuff. So I would urge people to study Elijah and study the minister, because they've been warning of everything that is transpiring detail by detail for the past 100 years. And it's interesting that we are basically coming up on the 100th year that since Master Farah Muhammad came to us in 1930. We're in 2026.
Yes, it's 2026. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And another thing, just, the minister said that Donald Trump would be the last president.
Mm-hmm.
He said that Donald Trump will be the last president. And I'm sure you've heard before about how in the end times, right before the destruction, that the angel Gabriel will sound the trumpet.
Okay.
The trumpet sound, when the trumpet sounds and that's you hear that in Christianity and different.
Yes.
Well, what's the United States president name?
Donald Trump.
Trumpet. The Trump.
So you are saying
I'm just saying,
trying to come in the room.
I'm just saying that sometimes God, gives us little winks, So if this is the time,
trumpet. Okay, I'm following you.
If this is the time of the trumpet sounding, and the name aligning, but yeah, like and Minister Farrakhan also said that Donald Trump would be the one to run America into the ground.
Oh, okay.
So, hey, all I know is that the people won't be able to say that we weren't given divine messengers, and nobody that knows me is going to be able to say that I didn't say nothing.
Right. Well, not just that, also the time period that we're in. There's so many cosmic timelines merging in the last several years. So I think not everyone, but many of us feel something major is happening and taking place. And it is. It's not, intuitively, even people who are not that intuitive or not that enlightened, they can feel something's happening. There's like the earth is talking, and so it's all around us, and it's really real, folks. It's really happening.
It's here. God is.
It's happening. It's so much. If you've been following my channel and following a lot of the messages that we've been giving out, we in a special era, and our ancestors waited for this, and they, it's here. We're here. We're in the footsteps of the prophets. We're walking in that time period, and it's a new cosmic age, new zodiac age merging. New 26,000 year time period is all merging at once.
Absolutely. And when we talk about this might be sound depressing or stressful to certain people, is as I said, in the next world will be a world of peace, after heaven on earth. So it's funny because as all of this stuff started unraveling, I was excited talking to people, and they me like, it's not, they looking at me like weird. It's not that I want to see people die and all that stuff. No, for me, it's that I was always obsessed with the hereafter.
Yeah, a new era. Yeah, that's what we're anticipating.
I was always obsessed with the idea that there will be a time when the earth
will be heaven on earth, and there will actually
Mhm.
be peace, and that we will return to our original God state. Like
Mm.
like all of those things I was saying about how these prophets and scientists can do these superhuman things.
Mhm.
All of us have the ability to do those things, and we used to be able to do those things in ancient times when we were in our original state.
Mhm.
And Donna Elijah Muhammad said that we will return to that state, and Master Farah Muhammad doesn't just he didn't just come for us to worship him, he came to make us gods.
Mm.
So that is what we have to look forward to. And that is what, what my mind is on. So anybody that, is stressed or depressed about what's transpiring, when you read the Quran, that's all the Quran talks about is the hereafter, the hereafter, the hereafter.
Yep.
So that's what I would encourage people's mind to be on through,
Mhm.
through all of this.
Yeah. To focus on, like, this is the storm and what's on the other side of the storm, not focusing on the storm itself. And you're seeing the lightning off in the distance and you're hearing the thunder, and it's getting close. But instead of being afraid, just shelter in place, and you know of a surety that on the other side, like you said, the hereafter is awaiting us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on show. Stay on too after I end the live, but thank you so much for joining us again. It's always an honor to have you on here and to hear you share the wealth of information that you have with everyone. And I hope that this tonight's lecture was informative and helpful to all of us as we strive to stay aware at this time and pay attention, and to remember to come together at this time. This is a great time for us to be tribing up and finding those who are like-minded like you, and continue to find peaceful solutions at this time. And so remember, family, we are to be patient with ourselves and one another, because we are clearing out thousands of years of outdated conditioning. And with that said, I'd like to end tonight's transmission. I bid you all love, peace, and prosperity, and good health. And until next time, peace and love.
Peace.
Peace.